What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So as y'all see the prior to the video I just did about Deion Sanders, head coach of the Jackson State Tigers, is being announced that he's preparing to leave for the Colorado job, right? And after I made that video, man, I get on social media and I see people like getting mad at the people who are mad that Deion Sanders is leaving. I see black folks calling other black people that wanted him to stay at Jackson State crabs in a barrel, crabs in a bucket or something, so on and so forth. They're like, man, y'all don't want black people to be successful, to achieve great things, and to excel, and to be promoted, and so on and so forth. And it's not even that. It's not that they don't want him to get big money and succeed and do well and get great opportunities. It's the fact that if you have any association with the HBCU ranks, if you're an alum of an HBCU, if you grew up in a town where HBCU is located, if your parents went to an HBCU and you were invested in the school because of that, if your family traditionally went to an HBCU and you love HBCUs and all of that and what they do for the community and in disenfranchised areas where black people live in, and you love how they educate a lot of black folks and put us in position to get these degrees to be qualified to get certain job opportunities, you feel it close to your heart when that brother's leaving that school. And it resonates with you because you know how HBCU athletics is looked upon. People basically turn their nose up at HBCU athletics. They scoff at it. I myself wrote an article on ESPN talking about my football program, the Mississippi Valley State University Delta Devils football program. This is back in 2013. Right? And a young receiver by the name of Julian Stafford was balling out of his mind at MVSU, right? He was the first receiver he was only the fourth receiver to have a 1,000-yard season at MVSU in MVSU history. One of those other receivers was the great Jerry Rice, who had outstanding record-breaking numbers at Mississippi Valley State University, my alma mater, right? And when I wrote this article about Julian Stafford, I saw people in the comments section basically, just trying to shit on my school. Basically saying, who is this no-name school, this terrible school, this lackluster school, these, what they called it? They called our athletic programs JV, athletics, junior varsity. Basically, like, nobody wants to watch these schools play because MVSU was going to be in a showcase against FAMU. People was like, we don't want to watch this showcase with these unknown, talentless schools and all this and all of that, not knowing that MVSU has produced Hall of Fame football players in the NFL, right? Also, FAMU has as well. From my school, though, I know Deacon Jones, the man responsible for the sack being a statistic in the NFL, came from MVSU. Went to South Carolina State first, and then he finished off his playing career at Mississippi Valley State University, right? Then Jerry Rice spent all his years at MVSU and was drafted in the first round out of our school. And you know what Jerry Rice is in the NFL, a football giant and god, right? But yet and still, these talents come from the HBCU ranks. We talk about Walter Payton, Michael Strahan, Hall of Fame Richard Dent, Hall of Fame individuals come from these schools, Shannon Sharp. But HBCUs are always looked down upon and talked about and dragged through the mud and forgotten. And we will never forget those times. Right? It was times where I was a student at MVSU and we had a good game. I was hoping that one day I could at least see our highlights on ESPN, and I would never see it. I would never see us shown on ESPN1 or ESPN2. We were only ever on ESPN3, where we were an afterthought, right? Where you had to go on the internet to watch ESPN3, and ain't nobody watching those games unless you're an HBCU alum or again your family went to these schools. So we felt that, like, man, we wanted to be on TV, we wanted to be represented besides just being a ticker at the bottom of the screen. And when Deion Sanders came, all of that changed. He brought a different type of flair, a different type of awareness to the HBCU ranks that we'd never seen before. And he brought it because of the clout and cachet that he has. Let's be real about it. People are not going to like when I say this. Deion Sanders is so big, like white folks was caring about HBCU football when we know they do not care about it at all. They care because Deion Sanders is a football god. He's he oozes charisma. He makes you watch the screen when he's around. And he brought that type of fanfare, and he brought that type of that stature. He brought a magnifying glass to HBCU football. So college game, even so big that college game day, Kirk Herbstreit, Reese Davis, Desmond Howard came to Jackson, Mississippi to come to Jackson State University and put a football game, HBCU football game, Jackson versus Southern University in Baton Rouge on TV, primetime TV, and display it for the world to see. That only was able to happen because Deion Sanders was there. Not just any football player, former football player can go there. You can have Hall of Fame guys go there. They don't have the same charisma, the same bravado, the same type of like flair, the same type of what's je ne sais quoi that Deion Sanders has to keep the eye on HBCU football. For real, I can't name you a person outside of a Shannon Sharp who can go to the HBCU ranks and make it the same thing that Deion Sanders did or make it even close, right? Unless you have like who's a big time personality who is respected and revered in the sport, but at the same time, his personality is so big that people just love and adore him the same way they love and adore Deion Sanders, right? Only person I can think that could rival something like that is what a Shannon Sharp or something like that. I don't know who else can do it the way that Deion Sanders did it, and black people recognize it as well. So that's why they are so saddened by the fact that he's leaving, because they're like, man, this was something good that we had for the HBCU ranks, and we ain't had nothing good in a while. You know, we don't get the same type of resources that these predominantly white institutions get at the Power 5 schools and the non-Power 5 schools. Even the non-Power 5 schools get way more resources poured into them. The PWIs within non-Power 5 conferences. I went to grad school at Arkansas State University in the Sun Belt Conference, and you should see the money that Arkansas State gets. Great bread. It's a stepping stone for guys go from, you know, the Hugh Freezes, the Gus Malzones and stuff like that. They come from Arkansas State, and then they get the bigger jobs at the Auburns and the Ole Misses and so on and so forth, right? So I was there to watch that program. I'm like, oh my God, look how much money is poured into this program. Look how much stuff they get. HBCUs don't even get a fraction of that because we don't have these mega million and billion dollar endowments pouring into our universities. So people can say, well, if the alumni donates, it would be bad. Man, the alumni can donate as much as they want to the heavens high. First, we don't have the same type of alumni base that these predominantly white institutions have, where they got these billionaires and all this just coming and oozing out of these, just coming from their programs, just coming from their schools. And we don't get these billion-dollar endowments, mega million-dollar endowments that these other schools get at all. So the alumni can donate all they want to. And it never will be the same as it will never be equal the amount of money that these predominantly white institutions get, you know, within these Power 5 conferences and even outside of the Power 5 conferences. And we, as HBCU alums, and people who just love or care about the black community in general, you don't even got to be an HBCU alum. We as black people that care about the community, we recognize what Deion Sanders was. He was a beacon of hope for the HBCU ranks. He was a light shining bright for the HBCU ranks that we can say, man, look at this brother. Look what he's doing for the black kids who thought that they would never be playing on TV, who thought that they could never be shown or respected playing in the HBCU. Now they can because Deion Sanders is there, right? And even if you're not at Jackson State, you're at a school within the SWAC or even in the MEAC or whatever, and you got a game scheduled against Jackson State, the scouts going to pour in because they're coming to see Deion's kids, but at the same time, they'll see your kids playing. They'll see you playing, right? They'll see you playing, and they'll see what you can bring to the table and say, oh, man, I never would have saw this kid. Now, Deion got me watching this game, and I'm seeing these kids on the other team play. These kids can also play as well. We'll get them a shot. We'll see if we can get them a shot within the NFL ranks. As I mentioned before, HBCUs don't have pro days. Deion Sanders was trying to change that. Of course, they was going to have pro day was coming at Jackson State for sure because Deion Sanders was there and he said so. And he has the bravado and the clout where, like, again, bro, like, not just black people love Deion Sanders. Everybody loves Deion Sanders. Everybody. Especially from white folks love him to the heavens. You know, Hispanic folks, Asian folks that watch the football, they love him and adore him because he was a football god, but he was also just prolific as a personality, right? His personality could get all type of resources to not only to Jackson State, but the SWAC conference in general. I spoke about what he did for my institution, my alma mater, Mississippi Valley State. Got help get us a new scoreboard, helped get us new turf on the field, and even helped to help us fix the practice facility at NVSU. He's close friends with NVSU's head coach, Vincent Dancy, right? Was helping to get Alcorn State a trainer when they didn't have one, using his resources to get Alcorn State a trainer, was even advocating for the kids within the SWAC to get their names on the back of their jerseys. And he said, I will pay for it if we need to do that, because it's something to see your kid playing on TV and you see that name on the back of their jersey. It make the family feel good and the kid feel good as well. These are prolific, outstanding things that he was doing and advocating for while he was at Jackson State. And we like, man, who else can advocate for us in the same way? Yes, we can do it as the community, but it ain't gonna be the same. Like coming from like it would be coming from a person like Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders getting the airlines involved with the athletic department. What was it, Southwest or Delta Airlines or something like that? Getting them involved with the athletics at Jackson State. HBCU don't get that. We don't get no in partnership with the airlines and stuff like that at our schools. We don't, man. Especially if you're one of these schools that's not at the big time HBCUs like Howard and Hampton and Spelman and Morehouse. We don't get that type of looks. We don't get those things. And Deion Sanders was bringing them to the HBCU ranks. And that's why people were holding on to hope that he would stay, because we recognize what he was doing for the community and what he could continue to build at the HBCU ranks. We're like, man, he could build this program up and get this HBCU thing rolling, and people just come back to the HBCU ranks, and the black kids stop just going to PWIs and they come to the HBCU ranks and even the playing field out, right? Bring revenue into the HBCUs that desperately need it. These HBCUs, we definitely need, we desperately need that revenue pouring into our schools. Don't just pour it into just the predominantly white institutions. Give back to the HBCUs that are in predominantly black neighborhoods and educate the poor and disenfranchised people. We need it coming into our schools as well. Man. And Deion Sanders, being at Jackson State, made other kids recognize it's okay to go to a HBCU, y'all. We can go to a HBCU and still get drafted and still get respect and still get shown on TV and still get talked about in the right limelight and still get the right amount of fanfare. Which is why when we saw Travis Hunter, the #1 player in the country, go to Jackson State, we're like, oh my God, look at what's happening at the HBCUs. It's the HBCU renaissance being started. And we were like, it's spearheaded by Deion Sanders, and that's why people are disappointed and hurt that he's leaving. Not that people hating on Deion Sanders. Now, I looked at the bigger picture and said, you know what? Deion Sanders said he wanted to, he had to get his coaching staff paid. It wasn't about him getting paid, but he wanted to help his coaching staff get better money, right? And I understood that. And I understood that in life, people have to elevate. Right? People have to do what's best for them and their family, because outside of my personal feelings about the HBCU renaissance that needs to be started and needs to be continued, if it was a person working at any other company, I would be happy for a black person going and elevating, doing their thing and getting good money, especially, when I know that, when a black person starts off in a ranks that people don't really respect, and they excel and they get a great opportunity, you like, oh my God, you clap for them, right? But my thing was that I didn't want the HBCU ranks to be looked at as a stepping stool. I wanted it to be built up to where it would be at least close or in the ballpark of getting the same respect as some of these Power 5 conferences, right? And we know that would have been a long time coming. It'd be a lot of hard work being put in, but as long as Deion Sanders was there to spearhead that movement, it was going to be respected. It was going to be admired. It was going to be championed in a different light, and I recognize that. And everybody else did too. And so it's not black people hating on Deion Sanders' achievements and his opportunity. It's just that, man, we were hoping that we could get him for a little bit longer to help build that program up and make it into something that would be respected and make it into, like, you know how Gonzaga is viewed within college basketball. They weren't always viewed like that. They play in a conference that people feel like is less than stellar or so on and so forth, and but people started to respect that conference and respect Gonzaga, no matter the conference they played in. And they started to look at teams like St. Mary's and so on and so forth, where Patty Mills come from, right? Giving them opportunities, giving opportunities to players in that conference that wouldn't otherwise get looks. And so I was hoping that Deion Sanders would. Me and other people were hoping that at least Jackson State would become the Gonzaga of the college football ranks, right? And we were hoping, or at least come to that. If you couldn't get close to Alabama and Michigan, which of course would have been extremely hard, it would have been like pulling teeth or finding a needle in a haystack to get the HBCU ranks as respected as those programs. But we knew if Prime was there, he would give it a different type of look, a different type of feel. So yes, we know that Eddie George is still at Tennessee State. We know that Hugh Jackson is still at Grambling State, right? But it still doesn't hit the same the way if Prime Time was still there, because he's Prime Time. And you got to put him on TV no matter what, because of who he is, because of the attention he garners, because of the clout and cachet that he's earned, right? Doug Williams, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl, was at Grambling State. And Grambling wasn't on TV and wasn't getting the recognition it deserved. And here's a guy who won a Super Bowl. It's because it can't just be any old former player coming to an HBCU and making things change. It has to be one of the football gods who's charismatic, who is enamoring to the people, who gets the people, who has the people's respect to the highest degree, and who has again a je ne sais quoi, an aura that you just have to put on TV, that you just have to follow, that you just have to be around. Deion Sanders is one of one. And we wanted that one of one within the HBCU ranks to make our programs one of one, to get the prominence back to our programs, to help bring in more financial stability within the HBCU ranks, because it's unfair that the financial stability only goes to the predominantly white institutions, that they get the mega billion-dollar endowments that the HBCUs don't get. And the way for money to be generated within the HBCU ranks, unfortunately, is due to having prominent sports programs. That's how these other schools thrive and survive. These boosters come around and make sure those teams keep doing well, because it brings in so much money and fanfare. People only go to these predominantly white institutions because of the sports teams, right? And if the black athlete recognizes that, hey, my ancestors and predecessors who are in the NFL Hall of Fame were at these HBCUs, I can go there and do something too. And if it was spearheaded by Deion Sanders talking that talk and getting them to come back there, come to the HBCU ranks, oh my God. What? Let these number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 players in the country started pouring into Jackson State into other HBCUs. Oh shit, man. It would have been something crazy. And of course, the Power 5 conferences would have tried to counter that with the NIL deals that they give out. But I was hoping that Deion Sanders would have helped to garner NIL deals for those other young guys that wanted to come to the HBCU ranks and play at Jackson State. He would have helped them garner NIL deals to come on board and build a new ship that everybody else got to ride on, instead of joining the ship that was already built. So I'm not mad at Deion at all. I recognize that even though when he said God called him to Jackson State, I don't think it was a fraudulent claim. Like I said, sometimes God calls you a place for a season or two, for some seasons, but not permanently. And maybe God called him there for some seasons, and now he's going on to another opportunity. So I'm not mad at him. And black people aren't being crabs in the buckets by being upset and disappointed that he's gone. It's just that we know what he did for our HBCUs.